Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle, the podcast for high performers who've gone all in, but still feeling a little stuck. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, coach, speaker, and creator of the Prime Performance Process. If you're a solopreneur, small business owner, or just launched your side hustle and you're tired of grinding with no momentum, this is for you. Every week, we bring you guests that have broke the code, generated momentum, and finally got unstuck. And we're diving into their stories, their struggles, and their secrets to generating massive momentum in both their personal and professional lives. We don't do fluff here. We do frameworks, real talk, and share the kind of insights that get you unstuck for good. Welcome, and let's get rolling. But before we dive in, I gotta remind you, if you're overwhelmed, spinning your wheels, or just tired of hustling without the results, it's time for a Prime Performance Strategy session. In this free call, we'll zoom out on your life and business, identify the real reason you're feeling stuck, and build a game plan to help you reclaim your confidence, energy, and gain some clarity so you can get back to doing what you set out to do. Lead, grow, and thrive. This isn't surface level coaching. It's a system built on resilience, intentionality, clarity, and alignment. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to grab your spot today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Let's get going and help you look good, feel good, and do great things. What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. I'm super excited because today I'm joined by Mo Salami, a scientist turned speaker who left a successful pharmacy career to pursue a calling in personal development and communication. Mo has spent years on stages around the world, and now he's refining a keynote built to move audiences and leave them with a practical gem they can use the same day. He's service first, feedback obsessed, and on a mission to amplify a message that meets people at their frequency. So I'm excited to kind of dive into Mo's journey, hear about the challenges he embraced to rewrite success and the habits that help him perform at a high level. So Mo, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to have you. How are you doing?
First of all, I'm doing amazing. What an introduction. Thank you so much for that, Rob. And I'm doing amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been connected kind of loosely, probably over the past year or two, maybe even, and, reached out to me relatively recently. And I was just like, oh, I love speaking to Mo, always positive energy. I'm excited to kind of dive in, hear a bit more about your story. So I'm happy you're here and I'm excited to dive in. And if we could just kind of jumping right in, I'd love to ask you right off the bat here, when you were going through your life and career, when did the traditional success stop feeling like true success for you? And what was the moment that really tipped you into the career change and world change?
So I'll answer this by just giving, my backstory, if that's okay, Rob. And the turning point, I would say, was seeing a sign. The turning point in my story was seeing a sign. And before we get to the sign, I'll give this some context. So I'm from a family where having a degree, preferably in the sciences, is the definition of success. So I did that. I got 3 degrees and I started my career in the medical and the healthcare field. Got a nice car, nice neighborhood, nice house, great role. But the challenge was my 6-figure income meant I was working 16-hour days. And you know this, Rob, I know that you're a relentless hard worker. I know your story. And I'd get to the end of the year and I'm successful, right? But my year was just this blur of 16-hour work shifts. And fast forward, I'm in a bookstore in central London and I see a sign and it says, how to be successful. Bear in mind, my whole world of success is anything to do with academia and sciences, and that's it. And I did all that, right? I'm successful, right? Anyway, that sign was a sign or an ad for a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Are you familiar with the Success Principles, Rob?
I'm familiar with Jack, but I'm not familiar. I haven't personally read the principles though.
So that's one of his, he does the chicken soup stuff, but that's one of his premier books, the Success Principles. And this was my introduction to personal development. So we're talking, 15 years ago. When I sat there in the bookstore and I started to read the book, eventually bought the book after sitting in the bookstore for ages and went to the back of the book and I bought every single book listed in the back. And I read every single book listed in the back of the success principles. So now I've got a decision and a dilemma. Do I go all in to this newfound actual success that I've discovered, or do I stick to my path of apparent success that I was already on? And of course, no risk, no reward. Rob, I traveled everywhere, all around the world, Europe, USA, Canada, Asia, learning from whoever's the best in the world. And very soon I gained expertise. There's always another level, right? But I gained expertise in online business, sales and marketing, personal development, and public speaking. I even went to work for Tony Robbins and his team as a senior mentor. I also did a lot of high ticket sales over there. One of the highlights was doing $1 million of sales in 90 days. And working with a lot of high achievers to get them to the next level, I realized that apparent success is when someone else decides for you what success means, and actual success includes fulfillment and success on your terms. So through the coaching that I do now, I really coach people for how to get the impact they want and the fulfillment they want so they can get anything that they want from life and from business on their terms.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And I resonate a lot with that because as many people listening, and I think you know too about my story of how I went through a deep, tough spell of burnout where I was just chasing these superficial milestones and leaving myself burnt out as well, working sometimes 16-hour days like you were, and till I had a moment of like, okay, I gotta wake up. This isn't really what I want to do. But for me, that took a little bit of time kind of figuring out and defining what it is that I really wanted to do. And you said you were traveling around, and what was it like for you when you were like, okay, I'm going to be doing something different? Did you just kind of fall into it right away, or was there some sort of a process or a runway that kind of led you to where you're at right now?
It was literally that second when I saw the sign, how to be successful. Because if you've, maths, physics, chemistry, biology, all that great stuff, you've gone to the pinnacle of all those things. It's not the easiest, right? You put in a lot of work for that. And I've seen this, and then that's the world. That's literally the world. I always say, never seen Die Hard, never seen Die Hard 2, never seen A Good Day to Die Hard or whatever it is. There's so many like movies and things and stuff that I've just never seen. So I was just literally in that world. And the second I saw that sign that said, how to be successful, I literally sat in the bookstore and I started reading the chapters of the success principles. And I went to the back of the book and I bought, probably not that minute, but I bought every single book, read every single one. And I talk about the fork in the road, but it wasn't really, because I knew that I was all in. And my question then was, okay, fine, I've discovered this brand new world. How do I become the best in the world at this? Not trying to be better than anyone else, but how can I become the best in my world at this? Because when I would do my role, my sciences role, my question was always, how can I be in the top 5 best at serving my patients and serving in the top 5 best of anyone who's doing this role anywhere in the world? Right. So it was just instant. So things like randomly traveling to Malaysia and Barcelona and all these other places, to learn from whoever's the best in the world, whatever their fee was, for me was a natural next step.
So when you were traveling around, you were learning from a lot of these people, but I know from hearing before about you that you traveled around speaking and a lot of different languages and such too. So was that part of the same kind of journey where you were learning from a lot of these were you taking in a lot of this information and skills and absorbing this information and then turning around and practicing right away?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I did the speaking course, I was taught that, about a decade now ago. And I literally went to the trainer and I said to him, I'm going to be one of your best, what's the word, testimonials. Because I'm going to, go through everything, learn everything, do everything you'd mentioned here. It's just a must because I was playing catch up, right? I hadn't heard of any of this stuff, ever before. And you're absolutely right. I did also turn it around to be on stage. I've given talks in English, and as you know, I speak a bunch of languages. I've given talks in French, in France, in French, in Canada, in Spanish as well, in Spain. And also, funnily enough, I've given a talk in Spanish with, en français, they call this a casque. So with a headset where it's like Portuguese simultaneous translation. As I'm giving a keynote or a talk, they weren't really keynotes, hour trainings in Spanish. So it's not my language, right? So I'm giving that training. Then you sort of wait for the translation. And if you've just told a joke, you wait for that joke to filter through. Did it translate? Did they find it funny? Oh, by the way, they did. And then you sort of continue. So it was just sort of moving on and moving forward. And I think what really propelled this, Rob, is, and the whole wanting to be the best in the world, what propelled all this stuff is not the best for myself, although it's kind of for myself, but because I'm a service-driven person. So if I'm in front of someone and they're a client or a coachee, as it were, or a mentee, as it were, I need them to understand that I've done everything I can to be the very best version of me, so I can help you be the very best version of you, or at least take that next step.
I love that. And a lot of people listening to this is really growth focused, I would say. I don't think they'd be listening if they weren't in a position where they were looking to kind of improve themselves, or at least relate to somebody else and build their side hustle and their small business and try to get that to another stage or another level. So I got to ask you, because you've been traveling around, you're learning from a lot of different people, and you've been exposed to a lot of high influential and powerful figures. I want to bring you back to like the early stages of that changing of the career. And so you've already hit this mountaintop in science, and now you're changing into something different. How did you identify the best people to learn from? Because there's a lot of people out in the world, especially social media, that claims to be gurus and experts, and you can fall into traps and spend a lot of time and money investing in mentors and coaches who might not be the best or have the best interest in you. So how did you, like, what was on your radar? How did you identify some of the best people to kind of learn from?
Because I used the method of academia. The very first course I went to on online business, it was called like how to make six figures in 20 minutes or something crazy like this. But I didn't know the title of the course, right? I knew it's an online business course. And I knew that if I've gotten 3 college degrees in the past, they took time. They took many years, many hours of study, of revision, of practicals, of showing up, of relentlessness. So I just presupposed that these would also require that as well. So whenever anyone said, learn this or do this in a crazy low amount of time, it just went over my head, as in I didn't reject it, but I didn't accept it, as in it wasn't a thing in my mind, because it's like, Rob, when they say, when you pay for a coach, you're not paying for their time in that moment. You're paying for all the hours and what they've done. How did I figure out who's the best? I think the best just shows up. I just sort of went for example, the person that taught me public speaking back in the day, he's someone that is associated with or taught, or perhaps Robert Kiyosaki, like not Robert Kiyosaki, but taught him or is associated with him and all that great stuff. So if you see Kiyosaki speaking all around the world and someone has meant to have taught him or works alongside him, that's probably someone who's probably knows what they're doing when it comes to public speaking. And I went to learn from the likes of T. Harv Eker. That's how I wound up in Tony Robbins' world. I was watching I can't believe I'm remembering this now. I was watching a series called, it was like Seminar of the Century or something. And it had all these different speakers, and there was lots of them, all the ones we've heard of, all the big names we've heard of. And then I thought, this guy, there seems to be a lot of buzz around him. Who is this guy? Then I read Unlimited Power, etc. And I was like, okay, I think he seems to be the best one. Boom. Even we have a mutual mentor right now, right? And that's how I wound up there. Because to me, I think these guys are the best when it comes to branding. So it was just, the cream always rises to the top, and you sort of realize, that's what the cream is. And that's where I'm going to head for. And I didn't even, Rob, now it sounds crazy, but at the time, I didn't even consider, what's the cost of the ticket? How do I get in front of them? I didn't consider any of that, from how much will it cost, or what do I need to do to get in front of them? All I knew is I will get in front of the best in the world at whatever their craft is, wherever it is. And I got to travel to many countries as well. So there you go. But it was just that, and it was just that natural, because I'd been in situations, give you some context. I'd been in situations where I had an exam to do, and there's all these different exams and coursework and whatnot, and it's a chemistry exam, by the way, for example, and the total you need is 120, and I needed 108 out of the 120 for whatever the goal was. And I'd have the teacher who'd go, "Hey Mo, you worried? Are you this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'll be fine. You know, no worries." And I wasn't worried, and then I'll do mad things like literally get 108. And these are external examiners from somewhere else, or I just get the 108 or the 110, but it was just zero. Rob, I didn't even know the word limiting beliefs until I started learning about public uh, personal development. I considered it before or heard about this before ever in my whole life. The concept of a limiting belief. I had to learn what limiting beliefs were after the fact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think given kind of your background and the motivator and drive for following academics and kind of following a process to get a process for improvement, that's pretty much all you know. And I think a lot of times nowadays people kind of fall into these limiting beliefs because there's so many different reasons for excuses in the world, and then those kind of
Right.
excuses, we kind of build them up, and then that's, I think, where some limiting beliefs are kind of born, where then
Right.
you're kind of shifting the focus from yourself with control to what's out of my control, it's something else. And most
Right.
of the time I think I see that's where it comes from. And so that sounds pretty dialed in there, and I believe that too, because it makes total sense there. And I want to ask you, moving here, because it takes time, like you said. Most
Right.
things that are really great and worthwhile do take time. So I want to ask you, what is the roadmap of purpose-driven success on your own terms? Like, how do you pull that together and identify that as an individual, or how do you help other people find and identify those?
I think I'd say it's a three-part process, and the three-part process has an umbrella over the three parts. So the umbrella is just, well, you know this and I know this, right? High performance, or said differently, expertise, like aiming to be the best, not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than yourself or who you were yesterday. We've heard all of that stuff. So there's that umbrella of how do I become the expert? And I literally have a framework for that, how to become the best at what you do. And once you have that umbrella, remember I said there's a three-part after the umbrella or under the umbrella if it's an umbrella, right? And the first one is work on your mindset. If you have a world-class mindset, you're in a pretty good place because 80, 90% of the results we get are due to mindset, right? 80 to 90% of the results are due to mindset. So one, world-class mindset. The second one is world-class skill set. If you're teaching people how to be amazing in the gym or nutrition or whatever your skill set is, the service that you're bringing out to the world, you better be the best in the world at it. And I just want to preface this by saying this. When I say the best in the world, I'm referring to an umbrella term of, I guess, in front of whoever you're teaching. You're better than whoever you're teaching, coaching, and you're constantly improving. You're always ahead and better than who you're teaching. When I say better than, as in what? Better than. Let's not watch our words here. And then when I say the best in the world, I mean the best in your world, better than you were yesterday, or if that's how you roll, the best in the actual world. You know, best in the world at mindset, best in the world at your skill set. And then the third one is this: always move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want. And why is that? The reason is because we don't live to be 1,000 and we don't live to be 10,000 years old. The alternative is, I'm going to do it tomorrow, next week, next year, next time. If we're super duper lucky, we live, 4,000 weeks, right? 4,000 weeks. We don't have all the time to procrastinate on this. So I'll say it's that three-step process, mindset, skill set, and just move in that direction of the result you want before you see the result you want.
I love that. That's very clear to kind of look at and to kind of vision too. Saying, and I love what you said about how mindset being like 75 to 85% of the success that you have. So that being very crucial to kind of kick things off, and then moving into the skill sets, and then making sure that you're constantly moving forward towards that
Right.
destination. So that's awesome there. And since we kind of touched on mindset there, I'd like to ask, for yourself, what was, if there was even, the hardest kind of shift in your identity moving from pharmacist and scientist to coach and speaker? Was there any difficulty kind of shifting your identity or whatnot? Because for a little bit of side story here, when I was getting out of strength and conditioning, I was almost resistant to the change because I didn't want to leave my credentials and my studies and kind of the reputation that I had built to kind of step into this role of a coach and speaker myself. I was hesitant at first, and it took me a little while to kind of overcome that idea. Like, hey, all coaching at the end of the day is some form of life coaching, whether it's strength and conditioning or performance and entrepreneurial stuff. But that took a lot of work for me. And I'm interested to hear about yourself. Or is it just another kind of flip the switch and you're like, all right, now I'm a speaker?
It's definitely it's definitely an awareness of your identity for sure. Because how do I answer this? It's I just want to be clear. So you want to know what was the identity shift that caused me
Yeah.
to go across?
How was it shifting from science into now coach and speaker? So because you had this
Right.
academic background and now you're into this world, because I guess academics is more objective, right? So you're either right or you're wrong with the studies and things. And now you're getting into a world that's filled way more with emotion and different kinds of metrics for success, I think. Yo, what's up? Sorry for interrupting. It's me, Rob. If you've been listening and thinking, man, I just know I'm capable of so much more, but something's just really not clicking, well, I've got something for you. It's called the Prime Performance Personality Quiz. And in just a few minutes, you'll uncover what's actually slowing you down. So whether it's a mindset block, energy drain, or a lack of clarity, this quiz is going to give you specific insights to help you build momentum again. Again, this quiz is free, fast, and honestly, freakishly accurate. So take it now over at survivingthesidehustle.com/quiz and stop spinning, start winning today.
I think it was easy and hard. It was very, very easy and it was very, very hard. And the reason is because imagine if you are from a family where the only thing you know as a metric of success, it has nothing to do with winning the lotto or Bugattis or none of that stuff. The pinnacle is academia. And that's all you've been taught your entire life. That's all you know. You knew you were going to college when you were like 4 years old, 5 years old. You just knew that was the path. It was just which course is it. And by the way, you've got a choice of three of them: medicine, pharmacy, optometry, or engineering somewhere. That's like four, right? But it's very limited. That identity piece, you sort of, and then as well, you have people that have invested their life for you to get to that position. You know, a village builds a child, right? So you know, your folks and all the stuff that they've done for you, and by the way, all the different levels you've done of examination and schooling, and then one day you're like, oh, I want to do this other thing. So it's hard in terms of that. It's easy in that if you've done these things and that's who you were, wanting to serve people that way, that's who you always are. So there's not like a left sciences, that's just who you are. It's a part of you. And then the reason it was so that's why it was hard. The reason it was easy is because, and again, I don't know, I just believed that if you're over here, you're over here on this wall and you're pretty good over here, perhaps. And all of a sudden you go into that wall over here, you're just taking the different competencies you have over there. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to become a coach now. I'm starting from zero. Wait a minute. What about all the competencies from over there? You just pointing them in a different direction now. That's it. So if you're someone who has had a life of relentless, I want to be the best, and I know your story, Rob. You know, you're someone that I mentioned this to you on the call we had a couple of weeks back, that you're someone that I admire in terms of your relentlessness, your drive, you walk your talk, and you just do whatever needs to be done. And similar to my story, I know that you're someone that went to any seminar, did any training, and when I say any, as in every necessary to get you to that sort of next level. And my point is, it was easy in that I believe that if you are wanting to go over there from over here, you bring with you so many different competencies and skill sets. That's where the coach comes in, the high performance coach, perhaps, to sort of help you to see that. that I always say that you don't know how beautiful you look to a stranger, in that we all think that the primary thought in a lot of people is, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. When to others, to you, you're ordinary, but to others external to you, you're extraordinary. So it's just about, it's easy in terms of that. There's so much, not potential, there's so much skill set that you already have. We just need to move it over there. That's all. And that's pretty much what I did, with also the humility to understand that in this brave new world, I want to accelerate the process. And how do I accelerate the process? Do I piecemeal it together randomly Googling stuff, right? Or do I figure out who is the best in the world? And then they can teach me their 40 years, what took them 40 years, 30 years, and all of that great stuff. So it was easy and it was hard at the same time. I didn't have any doubts, Rob, honestly. And I had never, Rob, I speak, I speak fluent French, fluent Spanish, etc. So when I wanted to learn French, it was literally, everyone else seems to just go blah, 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 blah. And it's another language. I think I want to do that. Which language do I pick? Well, I don't know. What are the languages out there? Oh, this one's called the language of love. Yeah, I'll choose that one. And literally, I'd have like, what's the equivalent, Rob, of like the Financial Times, like a big paper about, finances and.
The Wall Street Journal, I guess.
So I was reading the French version of the Wall Street Journal, as in my first introduction wasn't like Wednesday classes or any kind of app or anything. I just literally got Le Figaro, and I would just grab it and I'll just, oh, I know this word here, this word. And I'll just be reading that. And so I couldn't even speak French, but I was just reading it, just reading this Le Figaro, and and it was like probably the most difficult paper, right? If you can't speak the language. And then I didn't know I could speak French for the longest time, because you have to speak, read, write, and listen, right? But all I would do is read, read, read. And I didn't know I could speak French until one day I realized, oh, I've been reading French. I can speak French, right? And then it wasn't until after I'd learned Spanish and French, and now I wanted to learn Portuguese, that I read that if you want to learn a language after the age of 8, it's more or less impossible. So it's like, once you can get to a place of relentless belief in your ability, the ability of a human being is unlimited. Once you can get to a place of relentless belief in your ability and listen to lots of episodes of this podcast, not only do you survive the side hustle, you thrive in the side hustle, and you become alive in the side hustle, because your path to success is guaranteed as long as you work on your skill set, work on your mindset, and always move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. And you just, you shared a lot of value there. And like, I wish I knew you back when I was first kind of shifting careers and everything, because a lot of the times conversations in my head was like, oh, okay, well, what are people going to say or think if I am shifting? Am I good enough? What are these values? What are the things like kind of moving over? I am starting from scratch, so it's going to be different. So I could have used your insight of like, hey, you're bringing all these competencies over there. And I know a lot of people listening right now too are in current positions or jobs where they're working and they're pretty happy with what they're doing, but they might be interested in making their side hustle or their small business kind of like their full-time thing down the road, but they might be afraid of making that shift because of the same kind of idea or limiting belief of, hey, I am leaving so much behind to take this risk. It's better for me to just stick with this instead and just kind of grind through and barrel through on that. What it sounds like from what I'm hearing you on how to essentially maximize the potential and kind of expedite the processes, not necessarily looking at it from like an ignorant standpoint of like, hey, I can I can't be stopped by anything or slowed down, but almost like just kind of going through and just having this relentless belief that, yeah, you're just going to keep moving, keep going, and then it's going to kind of pick up and pull through as long as you are following the mindset, right? The world class mindset, the world class skill sets. And then what was the last piece again? Following towards a
Just
direction.
always move in the direction of the result you want before you can see the result you want.
Yeah, I love that. And so as you're kind of going, how do you know that you're moving in the right direction though? because I wanted to hone in on that one there, because sometimes people might be shifting, they might be starting a side hustle, they might be like doing a new project or something on the side because it's something that they enjoy doing, but they might not have a big enough vision or an understanding of what the vision could become. So how do you know that you're still moving towards that destination if you're not really sure what that destination is at the time?
So just I think it's the analogy of a plane going from East Coast to West Coast or the West Coast to the East Coast. It's always like off course, off course, on course, off course, off course until you arrive at JFK, right? So the answer is or LAX. Let's cater for both coasts. The answer is you don't know, but it's part of the dance. It's part of the journey. And I use the word again, that dance, and because the journey towards that next version of you or who you want to become or surviving, the side hustle isn't one where it's mapped out exactly as you'd like it to be. That would be amazing, right?
If
But
only.
you have to sort of step in and sort of trust, and also I guess crucially is do not attempt to do it yourself. I love so much what you said there, Rob, about it's not about, oh, I'm going to do it and all this big talk and I deserve it because I'm good person, kind person. I had this backstory that, woe is me, or I have this other backstory, I'm a this or I'm a that. And it's not even about that. It's like, sure, believe that you can get there, move in that direction, but also do not do it by yourself. Rob, you're standing on the shoulder of so many giants and greats, right? From who you've learned from and gotten to this level from. Did you get here by yourself?
No way. Not at all.
Right. If you get there by yourself, I mean, you could kind of maybe get there by yourself, but you could get there, you could arrive at a solution in 25 years' time that you could have been taught in 6 months, for example. So it's just about figuring out who's the best mastermind trainer. The number one word I would say that, the skill set piece is important, of course, because you need the successor P, the recipe, as you want to call it. But the recipe is probably 10%, 15%, if you're lucky, of the success journey. So you definitely need that mindset piece catered for. That's where a coach comes in. That's where multiple coaches come in, right? I have coaches for many things. So it's just about not attempting, really looking at the clock that says 4,000 weeks, and realizing that it's really important to shortcut that by having someone really help you relentlessly on one of them being your mindset and the other one being, well, one being your mindset. And another thing that's really important is showing up. Harping back, Rob, you mentioned about identity. You better have an identity shift that nudges you to show up every single day. Because guess what? If you're trying to work out, let's use the gym analogy. If you're trying to work out, and Rob, you know this already, and every single day is, should I go to the gym? Should I go at 12? Should I go in the evening? Do I go in the morning? I'll go. Do you know what I'll do? I'm going to do a double session tomorrow, but I'm going to have some cake today, right? The alternative is have that mindset shift. I'm sorry, that identity shift, and decide one time. And here's what happens. You make a decision one time and you show up every time and you improve by 1% every single time, right? By the end of the year, you're 37.78 times better than you were at the start of the year. If you do a 1% improvement every single day, 37.78 times or 3,778% better than you were. And why is that? Because you had that identity shift and or a coach to help you make that one-time decision, not because you feel great today or don't feel great or the sun is shining or the sun's not shining or your favorite song's on or whatever. You just show up, unless it's Christmas Day, of course, you can take a day off then, but you just show up regardless. And there are different puzzle pieces. When you're learning, this is something we all have done on this call, right? When you're learning English for the first time as a kid, you just know goo goo, gaga, mama, dada, all these random words that rhyme with ah, right? And there's all these different puzzle pieces, and they all come together eventually through age and school and your friends how they speak, and then they teach you slang as well. But when you're at school, that it's a bit more refined, and when you're at work, you better be not be using slang or cuss words. It kind of comes together, and then when you say to yourself, I'm going to go to figure out how to work my body or work out my body. There's different puzzle pieces, and you don't know them until you know them. And how do you know them? Someone who knows them shows you the way. So it's just literally that. I go to learn French, and I didn't know how to learn a language. I just knew that, I can learn a language. I didn't know how, but I did it by reading a paper or watching, Friends, Rachel Chandler,
Mm-hmm.
Ross, Friends, these guys. So I watched every single episode of Friends in English with French subtitles from series 1 all the way to 10. Then I watched every single episode of Friends in French with no subtitles, series 1 to 10, because the rationale in my mind, left brain, right brain, the left brain rationale was that, wait a minute, that TV show, and again, I'm just talking generally, love Friends, whatever, but that TV show is a show that everyone can understand. Young people, old people, whatever demographic of person, someone whose English is their third language, they can understand Friends. And why is that? Because with languages, you've got you don't need that many words to communicate a language, right? And all Friends were doing they were grabbing, and again, I speak generically, not necessarily about Friends, but they were grabbing the main couple of hundred words we use and just throwing them up in the air every single episode, and they just sort of landed, how you doing, and all this other stuff, unagi and pivot or whatever. And they were just landing the same words over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So why would you not be fluent by the time you get to series 10, etc. But then when I was learning Spanish, I understood the puzzle pieces a bit. I knew there was a jigsaw puzzle now. French, I just didn't know it. And then Spanish now, I'm like, I will speak this language fluently in 1 year. No drama, because I knew the puzzle pieces. I knew that this piece goes here and that piece goes there and that piece goes there. I didn't know what they were yet, but I just knew about them. The sentence constructions and verbs and all the other great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I failed. I didn't learn Spanish in 12 months. I learned Spanish in 14 months, right? By the time I get to Portuguese, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this in 3 months, getting a bit cocky now. I did do that in 12 months, but it's like, it's the point I'm making is that in the process of surviving a side hustle, I was going to do a prayer sign. Do not try and do it alone. That's wild. You need mentor. I would suggest, mentors upon mentors upon mentors. Do your due diligence. If someone says, I can get you 6-pack abs by the end of next week, just do this one thing. I probably wouldn't go for that person. Do your due diligence, but learning from whoever's the best in the world. My question at the time is, I'm just going to learn from whoever's the best in the world. That's it.
Love it. I love it. And yeah, I feel like so many people just kind of fall into that quick instant gratification where they're like, yeah, well, let me find that 6-second ab or 6-minute abs or whatever, and just kind of fall into that. And what I'm hearing you say is like, hey, don't be foolish. Don't fall for that stuff. Know that anything worthwhile is going to take a bit, and there's value and effort that have to go into it. So no shortcuts. Make sure you're putting the work in, and along that journey, there are natural shortcuts, like you were saying, how the puzzle pieces and how things kind of come together. During the journey of the hard work grind, be open and aware to the little secrets to help you fast track those things and expedite it by getting a coach and learning from the pros and experts in the field. So I'd love that. Thanks. That's awesome. And speaking of teaching and kind of following a process and such, I know you went over the umbrella kind of framework before, but I believe in your coaching, you also have a 6-part framework for how to get everything that you expect in life and business. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So the overview of the 6-part process is how to get to expertise, how to be the best at what you do. And the 6-part process looks at things like preparation and participation or showing up. I alluded to one before of showing up. And the outcome, like I mentioned, is once you have that foundation, you can use it to get anything you want from life or from business. And for example, when it comes to preparation, would you say, Rob, that preparation was something that's pretty necessary, and then I'll walk you through like
Of course. Yeah, I think it's very important.
right. So, for example, the challenge with preparation is sometimes we stay stuck in preparation, just constantly preparing. So, I'm going to walk you through something called the 3 Ps of polished performance, right?
Okay.
Step number 1 is preparation. Figure out how you need to prepare for when it's stage time. Do your preparation. But that preparation, it needs the threshold. So figure out what preparation means and depending on what your task is, right? And when you get to 80% of what that preparation means, stop. We need to move on. Why? Because I can always, continue preparing. So once you get to 80% threshold, stop. And you move on to the next part. So the first P is preparation. The second P is performance. So now just step into the arena, step onto the playground, so to speak, and play, perform. But what we're not going to do is think about preparation. You've done that part. So you just focus on the performance and focus on the fact that you're going to, do the best you can consistently and get the result for that. Now, the third P is polish. Remember, these are the 3 Ps of polished performance. So there better be a polish in there, right? The third P is polish, and this is another way of saying iteration. So you've prepared, you performed, and now you get to go back to the drawing board and go, oh, what went great? What could be improved, etc. And then you sort of minimize what didn't go great, magnify what went amazing, and then you go again, where you prepare, you perform, and you polish. And those are the 3 Ps of a polished performance. And what they do is they help you show up prepared, but not prepared where you're paralyzed and just don't paralyze metaphorically, right? Where you don't actually perform at all and you don't get to iterate and improve.
Yeah. I know so many people who are probably listening to this right now who have been in that preparation phase for so long. They're waiting to kind of launch their coaching program and they're every time I check in on them, they're just tweaking something. They're getting ready to announce it and they never get around to it because they're still trying to prep. And oftentimes I'm like, dude, you just got to go. You just got to go do it now. Like you've done enough of this. It doesn't have to be all the way dialed out. Like go take those sloppy reps. What you're saying is now the second P of perform and get out there and do that and then spend time polishing once you get through a couple of those reps and figuring that out. So I love that framework, the 3 Ps of polished performance.
Inside of my frameworks are one of the 6-part framework is having passion, and we can talk about that in different directions. And what I would say is that really celebrate mistakes, errors. I remember one time I was on a Zoom call and there were like tons of people on there and everyone was speaking French. And I said, I went to say shirt in French, but I said skirt instead or something. And like people laughing or whatever. Bear in mind, je parle français couramment. I speak French, like my French, English, Spanish, they're the same level at this point. But I said skirt instead of shirt. And then a few people laughed. Celebrate those kind of things. Like do it not well until you do it well. You can't get to polished unless you do things unpolished, so that it's really, really important to do it scared. So if you're thinking about launching your coaching program, do it scared. It's part of the dance. It's part of the game.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important to get those sloppy reps in there. And so I'm interested to hear kind of people who are listening to this right now, how do they know that you're a right fit for them? I know that you're constantly chasing after, so you're refining your process, you're becoming the best in the world. So obviously you'd be a great fit for anybody listening as a mentor or a coach, but who gets the best results from working with you? So if they're listening right now, they're like, yeah, that's me exactly.
So I work with people who are aspiring to do, let's go one thing and then branch it out. So the outcome when I work with people is that they can get to design their ideal lifestyle. They have the choices to do that because they're relentless in what they do. And the way we get to designing the ideal lifestyle is by 2 things, your impact and your fulfillment. So the fulfillment piece has, mindset in there and all that great stuff. So that's the coaching side. So I serve people via high performance coaching on on one lane, and on the other lane, talking about impact, a lot of the constraints for people tend to be financial. So I have a really big background when it comes to online business. So I help people if they're at the starting phase, the growth phase, or the scaling phase of what their business is doing online. So the impact side is via the online business. The fulfillment piece inside is via coaching. So I help people through those lanes, and that's what I would say. And I start off just with a coaching call, a strategy call to see if it's a fit, and also to give you tons of value on the call. And on the call, there isn't like it's a call where you just come in, get some value, get some amazing takeaways, and then do you know what you do with takeaways? You take them away, right? and do that next step. So that's what I would say is who would be a great fit to that I would coach.
Awesome. And so where should listeners connect with you to kind of get in touch or to kind of follow you along with your journey and different things you've got going on?
So literally mosalami.com/free call, schedule a call on there, and just at the website mosalami.com as well.
Awesome. Sweet. So there you go. Make sure you guys check that out. Take advantage of that free call. Mo is awesome to talk to if you haven't already gathered that from our conversation today. So highly recommend checking in with him. And Mo, before I let you go, I got to just say, dude, I love chatting with you. I love just hearing what you're up to, what you got going on. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to kind of hop on today and share a bit about your experience, about your journey, about the things that you're doing and how you're teaching and creating this impact. Love a lot of the things that you were talking about, between the frameworks and the story and just the mindset and stuff that we discussed. So it was really awesome chatting with you. I appreciate you. But before I let you go, I'd love to ask you that if like let's say 12 months, because you learn a language in 12 months, let's just fast forward 12 months from now, what would amplification achieved kind of look like to you? Because your thing, you're trying to amplify, you're trying to help a lot of individuals, you're trying to maximize. So what does success look like for you in 12 months?
So I would say success for me, or for my
For
clients.
yourself currently, what are you doing? What's different and where are
Right.
you at?
So what I'm doing at the minute, I have a keynote that I'm very proud of. So I'm doing a lot of speaking at the minute, public speaking. And also you probably will see me on a few podcasts. I'm on a podcast guesting tour. So in 12 months, success for me would look like the calendar being booked out. I had to pause there because I have a maximum of speeches I do, but the calendar being booked out in terms of the keynotes that I give. I have 2 amazing keynotes. That's what success would look like, I would say, for me. And also, success for me would look like my clients continuing to thrive. And also, by the way, success to me, Rob, would look like that person that you mentioned who's waiting to start their coaching business. If you reach out to them and they start.
Yeah, I would love that as well. That'd be awesome to see that. And I'll follow up and let you know if he does get that kind of rolling, and even if he doesn't actually too. And so I'm excited. Hopefully 1 year from now, even earlier, 6 months from now, you got that keynotes booked out. You've got people listening here who host a lot of different events. Make sure that they're reaching out to you as well. And then also everybody who's kind of interested in hearing more about you, I'm looking for them to kind of get to your website, learn more from you, because I've learned so much from you from now and over the years and such. Again, thank you so much, Mo, for hopping on today and sharing value and just being here, showing up with your positive energy. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I am so blessed to be here. And again, thank you and awesome. All the best.
Sweet. All right, guys, until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Peace, peace, peace. And that's it for this episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found this valuable, the best way to support the show is to rate and review on Apple or Spotify. It helps get the show in front of more driven individuals just like you, and helps them discover the tools to get unstuck, break through burnout, and build something real. And you can always connect deeper with me, our guests, or grab free resources at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. Whether it's a strategy call, the Prime Performance Personality Quiz, some of our products, or just to check out our free content library. Connect with us over at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. And hey, remember this, you weren't meant to just grind. You were built to grow. So stay conscious, stay committed, and keep showing up. Peace, guys.